What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots and lots of exciting news to go over here this week. Some great news for gas-powered enthusiasts, especially this week. So stay tuned for all that and more. Before I get into all the news this week though, I first want to mention I'll be doing my usual weekly live stream here on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Join if you can, it's always a blast. We actually had a lot of fun the past two times here with Beth joining in. And so it should be another good live stream here this Sunday. So join if you can. But anyway, getting into the news here this week. The first news story is one of the few this week that isn't about gas-powered stuff, but it's still exciting because Autocar broke this exciting news this week that Honda's CEO revealed to them that not only is Honda researching a sports car in the EV era, but that at the R&D center we have a sports car, and added that its development is steadily proceeding. And part of this, they say, is doing a good analysis of the electric car market, and that the electric sports car would have a completely different taste from anything Honda has done before. But it's not greenlit for production yet or anything, with him lastly saying, "We have not decided on mass production or timing, but personally I would like to make it happen." So this could go a couple of different ways. Autocar seems convinced that he's talking about the next NSX, since in the UK it's called the Honda NSX, not Acura. But we already saw Acura tease an NSX last summer with some sketches and stuff, and that's already been confirmed. So this, them saying this and this seeming like a new thing seems like something that, would be old news if he was talking about the NSX, in my opinion at least. We also know it's not the Prelude because they confirmed that that's going to be a hybrid, or that it was a hybrid for the concept at least. And then as far as what else it could be, we did see whenever they originally teased, the future of electric Hondas a few years back, that there was under sheets, there was one was most likely an NSX and then another swoopy sports car as well. I'm guessing that is what he's talking about here, in my opinion. We'll just have to see, and I mean, everything's in flux right now with, cooling EV demand recently and stuff, as far as, what's all going to happen here. But it sounds like currently their plan is to have it be, an electric sports car here still, and, be really different supposedly. So we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, Honda has officially said they're finally working on a sports car, which is huge news after all these, decades basically of rumored, S2000 successors and stuff. I mean, it's not, coming or confirmed to be coming just yet, but at least they're working on it, and that's pretty exciting in my opinion. But anyway, moving on here though, speaking of the cooling demand for EVs currently, GM CEO Mary Barra this week gave a financial outlook for 2024, and among other things, she revealed that GM's forward plans include bringing our plug-in hybrid technology to select vehicles in North America. Unfortunately, she didn't reveal which vehicles they're planning to add a plug-in hybrid version to, only saying that we are timing the launches to help us comply with the more stringent fuel economy and tailpipe emissions standards that are being proposed. And there's talks of even the US here getting even stricter after 2026 with our fuel economy standards here. So I think that they may be hearing some of that and, making sure that they're going to be prepared here in the next few years. So we'll see. And she also said that we plan to deliver the program in a capital and cost-effective, efficient way because the technology is already in production in other markets. We'll have more to share about this down the road. So that's a big clue. If she says it's stuff they're using from other markets, and she says, vehicles plural, it'll be interesting to see how they play this, but the most likely thing, at least for the main one, is that there's a plug-in hybrid variant of the Equinox that's going to be coming here for the 2025 model year in China. So clearly, that's ready for the prime time already, so they'll just port that over here for our Equinox. So that's going to be almost certainly, the main one. And then, of course, it stands to reason that the GMC Terrain will also, since that's on the same thing as the Equinox, that'll, runs the same engine, all that will also get that tech. So if she's saying vehicles plural, that could be it. It's just the Terrain and the Equinox here. And I mean, with the Equinox being a huge seller for GM, that could really help fleet averages on its own. If they wanted to, they could also, with the Buick and the Cadillac versions, they use a 2-liter turbo 4 instead of the 1.5 in the Equinox and the Terrain. It's possible that they could maybe pair it up to, that as well, since I believe it's still roughly the same bones as the Equinox and the Terrain otherwise. So we'll see about that. Also, the other thing that uses the 1.5 turbo motor is the Malibu. And with Malibu sales actually doing really well, and especially if they're going to be selling a lot to rental fleets and stuff, having the plug-in hybrids kind of boost that average as well with the Malibu could also be something we could see down the road as well, because there's been rumors of, another heavy refresh for the Malibu coming, just like we've seen with the Equinox and others. So, that could be something that, happens as well. But she did reiterate, though, that their goal is still to eliminate light-duty vehicle emissions by 2035, but said in the interim, deploying plug-in hybrid technology in strategic segments will deliver some of the environmental benefits of EVs as the nation continues to build its charging infrastructure. And GM's CFO also recognized that we know that the EV market is not going to grow linearly, and also said we are prepared to flex between ICE and EV production. And I think this is great news. Me and many other people have been shouting from the rooftops for years that plug-in hybrids are the best solution for right now until the charging infrastructure gets better and people, are able to, be more open to the EV thing. I think, for a lot of the country where EVs just aren't practical now and maybe not for a long time, plug-in hybrids are the perfect solution. And so I think that this was great news, and good to see that GM has changed course a little bit, even if they are still planning for EVs in the long term here. And some other good plug-in hybrid news, though, Mazda has announced that they've restarted their RE development group, which they say will accelerate its research and development of rotary engines. And I guess they've been defunct for about 6 years now, the program, and they're reigniting it here. And the only thing is these are only going to be rotaries used as range extenders, just like how they are currently in the MX-30. They want to kind of develop that and supposedly make some breakthroughs there. It'd be cool to get, rotary range extender, in something that's bigger than an MX-30 with a bigger battery than an MX-30, since that was an utter failure here in the States. But Mazda's chief technology officer said this time 36 engineers will gather in one group to make a breakthrough in the research and development of RE. In the age of electrification and in a carbon neutral society, we promise to keep delivering attractive cars that excite customers with our challenger spirit. So let's hope that one of those cars is a production version of that iconic SP concept that we saw back in the fall in Tokyo. That would be really great, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, great to see that rotary engines, they're going to give it another go. Best of luck to them. And in some more good news for gas engines here, Toyota this week has announced during a speech that they are still planning a major engine development project and that they'll continue to develop gas engines. And so Chairman Akio Toyoda went so far as to say that he believes, in his personal opinion, that battery electric vehicles will never exceed 30% of market share globally, even if there are technological advancements. Which, everyone can have their own opinion about that, but that is bold to hear from him. He also says part of this is because 1 billion people live without access to electricity around the world. I haven't fact-checked that, but it stands to reason that it does make sense. And the Toyota selling vehicles in those places, which I never thought about it, but I wonder how people that don't have electricity, what they feel about, any kind of infotainment systems, which I'm sure you have. Even basic radios would be like, wow, this is amazing if you're someone who's never had electricity before. But anyway, so and he says, there's 1 billion people. So I guess if you're talking about their market share, which again, we're talking globally and them selling to all these remote places, sure, it makes sense for them to not switch 100% to EVs. And so that's why he says it's just not feasible because there's people that don't even have lights and, anything else, smartphones. They're way behind, any kind of DC fast charging setup anytime in the next, 50 years probably if they're, at the rate that these countries are going. That's very interesting to hear. And again, a new perspective that I personally hadn't even considered before, just how many, people still buy cars in other parts of the world that aren't as developed as all these places that have electricity. So this doesn't necessarily mean they're going to keep gas powered stuff forever in places that are more developed though. And even Lexus themselves is still planning to end their gas car production by 2035. Those plans haven't changed as of now, at least. We'll see how things play out even for Toyota North America or even in Japan, other places, they could still eventually go all EV if, the technology advancements and stuff do dictate that, but there's always going to be a gas division at Toyota, it sounds like, at least for a long, long time to come. And so anyway, interesting to hear that. Toyota's definitely poised for a strong 2024 and beyond here too with, GM and other companies scrambling to do plug-in hybrids and regular hybrids. Toyota's had them for years. They continue to offer them and have, some of the best ones out there in my opinion as well. And so I think Toyota's in a very good place. And I said years ago, whenever they were, saying we're going to do a multi-pronged approach, Toyota was the first to say, we don't want to do just EVs. We want to do plug-in hybrids and regular hybrids. And we think that there's, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And, I thought that was really smart years ago, and it's turning out that those statements and that plan has aged very well as we're coming into 2024 here. So we will see how the future continues to develop here, but very interesting to hear that. Now back to some strictly gas-powered stuff, not even hybrids. Volkswagen has partially revealed the Mark 8.5 Golf R, which gives basically the whole thing away here, showing the new front bumper and the obvious incorporation of the other Mark 8.5 elements we already saw debut on the 2025 GTI, including the lights, and almost certainly, the new interior. What we can't figure out yet, though, is how much of a power boost it's going to get. About 20 horsepower for the GTI, and, I'm guessing they're going to want to keep that margin the same, so maybe we'll see a 20 horsepower boost in the R as well. We also don't know whether we're going to get it in the US or whether we're going to keep the manual version that's exclusive to the US. If that's all going to be carried over here from the regular Mark 8s or not, but it sounds like we got a little while to wait, though, because Volkswagen says they're not going to debut the vehicle until the summer, according to Volkswagen. So interesting to hear that, but good to see that Golf R is still on the way here with the Mark 8.5. Speaking of manual transmissions, though, remember that exciting BMW Z4 manual announcement that I just covered, not too long ago here? It's a little less exciting now because they revealed the pricing, and it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be starting at $70,945, including destination, which is $3,500 more expensive than the automatic, and about $15,000 more expensive than a manual Supra. And, BMW says, oh, well, it gets like the shadow line package with, black mirrors and stuff, and it gets, little suspension tweaks, which the manual Supra also got suspension tweaks, and they didn't charge a premium for the manual in the Supra, and I think that was really a respectable thing by Toyota to not charge a premium. And now BMW is trying to do the cash grab and charge a premium here, $3,500 more for the manual essentially. And again, 15 grand more than a manual Supra means you're really going to have to want the wind in your hair with that motor set up and that platform in order to justify a 15 grand upcharge here. That's also more than an M2, it's worth mentioning as well, which is a full-blown M thing. This is just like an M 40i for the Z4. We're talking a full-blown M car that also is available with a manual for no extra charge, by the way, for much less. I think what M2s are 65 grand or something. So again, it's really about that convertible thing here, but it's a tough sell, I think. I mean, they're not going to make a ton of them, so I guess they'll be fine. Obviously, production starts in March, and I'm sure there's still going to be lots of demand, but just a little less exciting now knowing it's going to be so expensive. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Ford this week has revealed the 2025 Explorer, and as you can see, it gets refreshed styling outside and inside. First, on the outside, you can see it joins the trend of larger and larger grills, along with getting new lights front and rear, and redesigned bumpers. Inside, the portrait screen has been thrown out in favor of the 13.2-inch screen we've already seen in the Escape refresh from last year. The screen now runs new Google built-in software that Ford calls the Ford Digital Experience, and it thankfully still does have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, although Google Maps will be the native navigation app now. The screen also can do web browsing, YouTube, Prime Video, and even video games, but that internet connectivity will only be free for the first year. Another subscription will be Blue Cruise, with everything except the base model getting that feature as standard, but it's only going to work for 90 days before you have to subscribe to it for a $700 a year subscription fee for the first year and $800 every year after that. And I mean, as someone who is personally, has Blue Cruise in our Mach-E, I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of highway driving for it to be worth $700 a year or $800 a year after the first year. I personally wouldn't pay it, even though I like this stuff. I mean, again, you'd have to just always be on the highway for that to be worth it. But yeah, it's not sure if that's going to work out for them with those price points. But anyway, as far as the rest of the interior, as you can see, it gets some inspiration from the Mach-E with the dash materials. And it looks a lot more plush with more padding, which is a huge improvement over the current Explorer, which has cheap hard plastic everywhere. And I complained about it a lot in my Explorer ST review several years ago. And glad to see that that's been addressed. The screen does take over for the HVAC controls, though, unfortunately, so you can only get a volume knob and a couple of buttons there under the screen, but that's about it, just like the 2024 Mustang. Mechanically, the base 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder is the same, mostly new one from the 2024 Mustang, despite, being an identical displacement and identical power numbers of 300 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Ford swears up and down this is a brand new engine. I won't go into that. I'm assuming it is. I'll take their word for it, I guess, but I'm skeptical for sure. But anyway, the ST with its 3-liter twin-turbo V6 continues on too and is unchanged. And the 10-speed auto also carries over, but Ford claims it It's smoother than before thanks to a retune. The hybrid is strangely not offered still after being canceled last year, but continues on for the Police Interceptor version. The trims have also been simplified as well, with Active being the base trim now. Then there's just ST Line, ST, and Platinum. No more King Ranch or Timberline versions. Ford, though, did tease a gold accented wheel. Many think means there's a Tremor version coming instead of the Timberline, and Ford said to stay tuned for more info later this year. But lastly, prices go up by about $2,000, with the new base price now past $40,000 for the first time, starting at $41,220 for a base Explorer, including destination. They'll begin arriving at dealerships in the second quarter of this year. And BMW this week has shown off the refreshed 2025 4 Series and M4, and so visually you can see it's the usual new headlights, taillights, bumpers, wheels, all that stuff. Sadly, they've chosen to keep the huge grille, but it seems like it hasn't hurt sales, so they're going to stick with it. Inside, the middle of the dashboard gets a new pair of air vent designs there, and the screen gets new software. There's also a flat-bottom steering wheel and sportier seats for the non-M. The engines now get a 48-volt mount hybrid setup for the first time, extending the start-stop function is all it's really good for, but it runs on a Miller cycle now as well, which required some minor changes to some of the other engine internals. Power output is the same 255 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque for that base 2-liter turbo 4, but in the 3-liter inline 6 turbo, it gets 4 more horsepower and 29 more pound-feet of torque for totals of 386 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque now, because it can give you a little minor boost in acceleration there, for a very short period. But prices are going to be starting at $51,695 for the 430i, and the M4 models get the same new lights, of course, their own set of new wheels, and those interior changes. The rear-wheel drive versions keep their same amounts of power, but the X-Drive models get 20 more horsepower for 523 horsepower total now, and pricing is $1,000 more for the rear-wheel drive versions and $2,000 more for the all-wheel drive versions. And for the last bit of BMW news here, there's 2 additions to the 5 Series lineup. First, the i5 now gets an all-wheel drive option for those that don't need all the performance of the M60 version, called the X-Drive 40. It won't be slow either, with 389 horsepower and 435 pound-feet of torque, and a half-second faster 0 to 60 time than the base rear-wheel drive version. It also gets the same 84.3 kilowatt-hour battery, but no range has been given for this one yet. They do say it'll be capable of 205 kilowatt fast charging for an 80% charge in 30 minutes, and it'll be starting at $71,095, including destination, and production starts in March. The other new addition here is the new 550e X-Drive plug-in hybrid. It uses the turbo 3-liter inline 6 combined with an electric motor for a total of 483 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque, which will produce a 4-second 0 to 60 time. They haven't revealed the battery size or the range for that one either, but we should know soon because production starts in July. The Audi Q7 also gets its second refresh for 2024. Instead of doing a new version, they're doing another refresh here, and as you can see, it's a pretty light one as well. It gets new lights, bumpers, and grille, and it's the first time you can get the laser light in the Q7 as well. Inside, all you get new is a few new trim options and a few new apps in the Audi MMI system, like Spotify and Amazon Music, in case you don't want to use your smartphone. The powertrain carries over unchanged, but the optional 4-wheel steering system, they say, has been improved, and the SQ7 gets a torque vectoring rear diff now when you get the advanced suspension package. And that's basically it. So, refresh is even kind of a generous term for this. It's just like very minor stuff. But, I guess they're not going to do an actual new version until an electric one comes, at some point down the road. But, yeah, interesting to see that. We'll see if that helps to keep it fresh enough, with the X7 and the GLS and all that. But anyway, interesting to see that. And speaking of an all-new electric SUV, though, Jeep revealed a little more about the 2025 Wagoneer S this week, after the last teaser just a few weeks ago showed off the front end. So we now get to see the whole thing, although we still only have a few pictures here. But what we can see is a very sleek vehicle, though, that looks pretty cool. And we also get a peek inside, where it appears to get a lot of carryover from the other Wagoneers, which isn't a bad thing as long as it's screwed together well. And looks pretty nice. And Jeep says it'll be available with a 19-speaker Macintosh stereo as well, but we don't get any new info beyond that. So the tease continues to happen here, and hopefully we get a full reveal on all the details here soon. Mini has also partially revealed the 2025 Aceman this week, just showing it off here in camouflage. And it's going to be their first fully electric thing here, on a dedicated, EV platform and not just, a gas electric hybrid like you're seeing with the Countryman and the Cooper, where they're going to have both things. This is only going to be electric, and it's pretty close to the concept we saw in 2022. It'll be positioned under the Countryman and is a good bit smaller than that new Countryman. The only mechanical info we get so far is that it'll run a small 54.2 kilowatt hour battery, so don't expect a lot of range, but hopefully at least that means it'll be cheap-ish. And we don't have an exact reveal date for that one, but Mini says it'll be fully revealed in a few months. So interesting to see that. And for some other camouflage news here, a little bit of other BMW news here is that Instagram user Sid Robo sent me over some spy shots he took in Los Angeles area of what appears to be the next-gen 2 Series Gran Coupe with quad exhaust in the back. And huge thanks to him for sending in these pictures. Motor One posted spy pictures of this as far back as last July, so this isn't new news, but it's something that I haven't covered yet because I can't show spy pics and talk about that because it's way too expensive to show those based on, the few views these videos get. So, but anyway, it's really cool to see, and I appreciate him sending these over so we can get a look at it here. But it's interesting that it sounds like they're jumping straight to a new generation of the 2 Series Gran Coupe instead of doing a refresh like most vehicles. I think this just is about 5 years old or just a little under that, and we're getting a brand new generation, which is pretty quick, especially for this segment, which doesn't sell a ton, I don't think. But as you can see, it'll get new flush door handles like we've seen on the other new BMWs, and it appears that the grille, won't be enormous, which is nice. Hopefully the final product, though, looks better than the current 2 Series Gran Coupe, which I still think is not a good-looking vehicle. Even all these years later, it's never grown on me. Let me know what you think about those in the comments below. But if Motor One's reporting is right, production should be starting around November of this year, so we should get a reveal sometime here in the next 6 months or so, I'm guessing. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, huge thanks once again to Sid Robo for that on Instagram. One debut that will be happening pretty soon here in about a month or so is the Rivian R2. So during a city council meeting, actually, Rivian asked permission to host a worldwide product launch event at the Rivian Theater in Laguna Beach on March 7th. And the council approved it, and Rivian's plan is labeled on the paper there as R2 launch. So there's no mystery here. It's very clear that's what's going to be happening here. They teased it on Instagram Live last year under a sheet there, and so if it sticks to that design, then it appears it's going to be a boxy, smaller crossover that's not too off-road oriented, with it having, those ordinary street tires we can see. And it looks like it might be like a slightly larger Mercedes EQB kind of in form. We'll see. It was rumored to start around $50,000 last year. With inflation doing its thing, maybe that'll be different now, but it's not scheduled to arrive, at least back then. It wasn't until 2026. Hopefully we get more info, though, here on March 7th, but great to see that. Ferrari has revealed some of their plans for 2024 on an earnings call this past week and said that they'll be releasing 3 new models here this year. And so Motor One suspects that the one will probably be the hypercar, because that's been spotted with what seems like mostly production body panels. So hypercar, they're also thinking an 812 successor will probably be most likely another sure bet. And then the other one, the third one, is kind of up in the air. Could be a new Puro Songway variant, could be a new one-off or something else. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, stay tuned for some. I'm especially excited for the 812 successor because I've always loved the 812, and supposedly this new one's still going to keep a naturally aspirated V12. So that could be a new dream car for me. We will see. But anyway, so I'll be looking forward to all those reveals here this year. Another exciting hypercar debut that's supposedly happening this year is the new Bugatti, with the head of communications for Bugatti revealing to Motor One that the car will be revealed in the middle of this year, which to me means Pebble Beach almost certainly. That's the place for all the billionaires to hang out and check out new stuff. So, sounds like I didn't think we were actually going to see the new Bugatti this year. So this is a nice surprise in my opinion, and we'll see, what they end up showing off. But anyway, for the last news story here this week, circling back to GM, actually going full circle here, they revealed that they are scrapping the Ultra Cruise program that they plan to roll out in the Celestiq and other models, from Cadillac and others. And they said that they're instead rolling that development team into the Super Cruise development team with just the focus of expanding Super Cruise's capabilities, but instead of having the ambitious Ultra Cruise target of, I think they're saying 95% of driving being done, hands-free, Now it's being like, okay, well, Super Cruise is already really good. Let's slowly expand that out, beyond highways and get, eventually that Ultra Cruise thing, but without the confusing branding and without having to make that jump, and instead just make little iterative, upgrades to Super Cruise to slowly get to that point. I think that's the better way to do it. Do not rush this stuff. It's better to take their time, make sure they get it right, and not have a deadline or expectations of some new branding thing coming out, and I think that's, the better way to go. So I think that's actually good news, but just, from now on, we'll just know Super Cruise is as good as it's going to get. There is no Ultra Cruise anymore. Lastly, I want to thank all of you that are members of the Matt Moran Motoring Club. So we did have one new member that was able to join and lots of others that were able to rejoin thanks to the very generous membership gifts given by Kyle and the Truck and Car Guy here in last week's live stream on Sunday night. And so huge thanks to both of you for your huge amount of generosity every week. Everyone really appreciates it. I'm sure I certainly appreciate it as well. And so big shout out to them. I also want to give a big welcome here to Luke O1234, who was able to get a membership gift here this past week. So congrats, Luke, and thank you so much also, Luke, for all the great super chat questions here and all the live streams. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to having you as a member here as well. I hope you're all enjoying those membership perks so far here that are members, and for anyone else who'd like to join, become a member and get that priority answering and all the other membership perks, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and also a link in the description. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Please also leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.